This is Erik Harrison, a podcast by Erik Harrison, a very special episode thereof. But first, of course, let's listen to the theme song, which today is going to be Kiss from a Rose, performed by the Erik Harrison, a podcast by Erik Harrison Band, also known as My Mouth. Birthday is my birthday. The more I did about it, day now that when I was a kid and that song came out, this is a true story. I thought the lyrics were, "I've been kissed by a rose." No, kissed by a rose, not rosed. I've been kissed by a rose. That's so great. So, ponder that one. Today's very special episode of Erik Harrison, the podcast by Erik Harrison, podcast producer, is brought to you by extreme vertigo, which is my current state of being. This morning, I woke up. Maggie, the friend who was a girl, had to go to work. She works on Sundays because she's professionally a church person. And she got out of bed and she woke me a little bit. And so I rolled over and then I began screaming bloody murder because I thought I was falling out of the bed and everything was spinning. And eventually realized, no, I just have the worst vertigo of my life. And so I've been confined to the bed ever since. Well, that's not true, actually. I've left the bed twice. So here's what happened. Maggie was like, that sounds like your fucking problem. So she went to work. And I needed to take my morning constitutional, which is a nice phrase for saying I had to take a big shit. And so I needed to get out of bed. But if I stood, I fell right the fuck down. Keystone Cops comedy, just Mr. Bean straight to the floor. And what I discovered is that I listed strong to the right, which is okay because that's where the wall is. So I slid along the wall out of the bedroom, and the door to the bathroom is in the hall on the right again. And so I was able to sort of like turn the corner, leaning into the door frame and then coming around, and then sort of plop myself in the direction of the toilet. To engage in my morning activities. But then, plot twist, I couldn't leave because now, instead of a wall on the right of me, there was a sink, and then after the sink, a flight of stairs to fall down. That is what would happen if I listed to the right. So suddenly I'm in a puzzle video game, like a text adventure from the 90s, where what do you have in your inventory? A toothbrush, a comb, the Rogaine you don't tell anybody you use, and your verbs are stand up and fall down, and those are your only options. And it turns out the solution was crawl, the same solution that I used to get, this is how far I've fallen down, not physically, although I've done that a lot today too. This is how far I've fallen down in the sort of arc and trough of human existence. So if there's peaks and valleys to being a human being alive in the world today, then somewhere at the peak is like becoming an EGOT, and the bottom of the trough is, well, let's not contemplate that, but certainly on the downward part of the arc is my morning, where you order delivery from Starbucks because you're on the floor of a toilet, and the only thing you can think of that will make you feel better is a gingerbread latte. And then slightly below that is realizing that they have discontinued the gingerbread latte and ordering from Starbucks anyway. And then having to physically crawl down the steps to meet your delivery person, where you answer from the floor in a perfectly normal tone of voice because your only symptom is that you fall down like a baby doll every time you stand. Everything else is perfectly fine. And so you accept your food on the floor, and then you can actually kind of walk back to your bedroom, because again, where the wall is. And then you drink your venti coffee and eat your pumpkin bread and your cold breakfast sandwich. And now the real irony comes in, because I've had a lot of coffee, and I got to take that good poo later. So we have to repeat this whole thing again. And so that is why we have a special episode, because literally I could not, with being in this bed any longer. I figured, now that I'm a multimedia internet mogul with a podcast, a PCast that goes out on the iZone from the P Zone. So now that I have a P Zone PCast, does anyone remember the Pizzone from Pizza Hut? That's a topical reference for, comedy is all about keeping it relevant, keeping it popping. So just imagine the punchline for whatever that P Zone setup was. So here on my PCast, I was like, well, now that I have this, obviously it will release every Thursday, because that's when the first one was, in the general spirit of being totally unprepared and existing in a constant manic state. But because of sheer mind-numbing boredom, I can't even move my head. That's how little is going on down here. I decided to record a special episode for you, in much the same vein as before, with no preparation on my computer. You can hear cars driving by, I am sure, in the rain. Actually, I did a little bit of preparation, as you will discover later. But first, let's get into our recurring segment, which is discussing. Actually, you know what? I want to tell you. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the fucking shirts situation. So some of you are listening to this and you know what's up, because you're regular listeners of the Erik Harrison podcast, a podcast by Erik Harrison. But we're in the second episode, technically the first special episode after the first episode. So we're still one episode in. But the last episode went viral, crazy viral. Well, I mean like Legionnaire's disease viral. And by that I mean it brutally affected about 100 people, and otherwise no one was touched. But every single fucking one of you wanted a t-shirt. Just absolutely every one of you. And this is 100% true. I no longer have a shirt to sleep in. The last shirt that remains is a deeply nostalgic piece of clothing. And I would severely damage my relationship with other human beings if they discovered I gave it away for free as merchandise. So here's what we're going to do. We have a new strategy for these fucking shirts. I am going to buy a pile of thrifted shirts. And I can't wear all of them. I'm just going to go ahead and let you know right now that I can't do that. But I will spoon them. So I'm going to spoon a whole... Listen to this fucking sirens. I'm recording a podcast. Okay? I'm a big deal. Sirens. I'm the best deal. I'm 10% off everything in the store. That's how good a deal I am. I'm buy one, get one free. Sirens. There they go. There are no more sirens. They're fading in the distance. Intimidated by me being a BOGO. So I will buy a pile of thrifted shirts, which I think is going to give us a range of sizes, y'all. So that's pretty cool. And I will spoon them overnight. Guaranteed spoon. But I can't be giving these away for free anymore, you guys. We've grown too big too fast. So here... Before, you needed to find my secret email address, also known as my email address, and send me your address before I would send you a t-shirt with the words Erik Harrison, a podcast written on them. Now what you need to do to get one of these hot cakes going off the shelves t-shirts is you need to find my Venmo and Venmo me a quarter. Because I got to be making that money. I need to be leaving my job and just recording content for you. So a quarter is what's going to take to get a shirt that I have spooned against. And I will spend the first quarter on a marker to mark up all these goddamn shirts. So I guess we should go to the interview. Slam cut to the interview. Now, I promised you Stacy Crummel, my friend, who is least likely to listen to this podcast. There are two problems with that. The first problem is Stacy Crummel reached out to me and told me that she listened, which I find actively offensive because it ruins my joke. But secondarily, Maggie, the friend who is a girl, who is not here caring for me in my vertiginous state, is not here, not just because she had a morning gig, but she actually didn't come home after the gig to have drinks with Stacy, prioritizing that over my health. So Stacy Crummel is currently not available because she's drinking it up with my loved ones while I am confined to this bed like a TB victim. So we will be calling once again, friend of the show, Leanne Denverno. But because we've already interviewed Leanne and we've found that she has nothing to contribute as a person, at least to this. I'm sure she has a rich inner life and all that, but it's not really useful for me. This is where I said I've done a little preparation. I have done a little preparation to do this interview up good. And just again, I just hope it'll be audible. Oh, Jesus Christ, I have to sit up in some way so that fucking so that everything is in position so that you can hopefully hear her. Turn this phone all the way up. There's got to be a better way to do this, but don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, and conversely, don't let the good be the enemy of aggressively shitty. So let's just call Leanne Denverno. That was me talking to them.
Calling Leanne Denverno.
Thank you, AI assistant of the future. Yeah, it's ringing. I don't know if you can hear it's ringing. Pick up Denverno. Wow, we can't get Stacy or Denverno.
This is Leanne Denverno.
Holy Christ.
Leave a message or shoot me a text. Thanks.
Leanne, I'm dying, Leanne. I have the disease. The disease that made me fall down. And it's killing me. But not as bad as you're killing me by not answering the phone. So I need you to step it up. I snap a lot, apparently. That's a thing that I do now. Anyway, call me back or don't. Fuck. This week on Erik Harrison, a podcast by Erik Harrison. This week's episode is brought to you by no one, because I don't yet have a sponsorship. And people have asked me, and by people I mean my mom, if I have a website, and I'm refusing to get a website until I get a sponsorship from Squarespace or Wix, or one of those assholes who's in every podcast that you hear. So podcast people, reach out, give me some money. Wix, Squarespace. I am adamantly refusing to carve off a chunk of the internet until your sweet, sweet tools are given to me to craft so easy and so pure a website for my content. Until then, it's just YouTube. I am on the Twitter now, so you can tweet at me about this show and tell me how awesome I am. You can also tell me how awful I am. I honestly don't care at this point, as long as you are a listener, because apparently I need 5,000 subscribers before I can get some patronage, some old school medieval style patronage up in this biz, which I need. I need that money, apparently, to go to a doctor. So our final segment on the show today is what is our first segment on the show today? Our segment on the show today is going to be me reviewing the things I ordered from Starbucks, which are in bags in a pile, covered in crumbs surrounding me. And I want to know, if this isn't funny, if this isn't doing it for you comedically, then it's Leanne's fault. We blame our guests here on the show. Item 1 of 3, items in order, 4, delivered via Postmates. A morning bun warmed. Well, this was fucking delicious. However, I didn't ask for it warmed. They gave me the option. I did not select warm because I assumed it would get cold on the way over here. So, but it didn't, which is amazing. And everything about that should be praised. But I'm going to call it 0 out of 10 because they got my order wrong. I didn't want it warmed and you warmed it. Actually, I wanted it warmed, but I didn't ask for it warmed out of pessimism. And you did it anyway, and that is a mistake. Item 3 of 3, items in order, 4, Postmates, pumpkin loaf cake. This is pumpkin bread, and you gave it a stupid name. It was delicious and fragrant, both autumnal and wintry all at once. Soft, nuts on top for texture, pumpkin seeds rather, which I thought was thoughtful. But it's a dumb name, pumpkin loaf cake, 0 of 10. Item 2 of 3, items in order, 4, Postmates, DS bacon sandwich warmed. I don't know what DS bacon sandwich means. DS, I guess that's double smoked. I just picked the first thing with bacon on the list. There was absolutely nothing wrong with this, except that it wasn't a bacon, egg, and cheese McMuffin, which is the only breakfast sandwich. 0 of 10 stars. And I imagine the 4th item was this venti Cindl, Cindl latte with cinnamon something. I honestly don't remember, and I can't remember. It must have been garbage. And you know what it definitely is the gingerbread latte, which they have discontinued at Starbucks. 0 of 10 stars. So yeah, just batting 1,000. Starbucks, congratulations, wonderful work. Thank you for listening to Erik Harrison, a podcast by, about, and for Erik Harrisons. Erik Harrison suits are provided by a 2-for-1 coupon at Men's Warehouse. We'll be back with a regular episode on Thursday, where I'm going to get someone on this phone for interview purposes. Venmo me $0.25 for shirts. Yeah, let's get off the internet now. I think we're done.